How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? So nice to have you guys back today. Y'all know we're doing a Rooted in Greatness series this year. And the Rooted in Greatness series, we want to talk to coaches. We're going to talk to athletes. We're going to talk to people all across the nation. Some out of the mental performance space, but some that are working with coaches. We're going to talk to people who are actually athletes now, from Division I athletes to high school athletes. But we're going to get into this conversation and talk a little bit more about what does it mean to be rooted in greatness? What does it mean to be rooted in Christ? And how does that intersect in the work that we're doing in serving in athletics? Is it soul, body, and then the spirit? Or is it spirit, soul, and body? And what I want to talk about with my guests is, where does the spirit fall on the spectrum? Is it at the foundation of what you're doing? Is it in the middle, or does it exist at all in what you're doing? So today I have my first guest, man. And I'm so excited to have him here with me today. Amazing, amazing professor, coach, leader, father, uh, trainer. So many titles that this man wears. Tim, thank you so much for being here with me today. He is the director and professor down at Florida State University of FSU, coach, and it's so nice to have you on today and to learn a little bit about you. Introduce yourself, man, and tell everybody a little bit about you and your background, Tim.
Sure. Well, most people won't realize from my accent that I'm originally from England. I moved to the US in 2004 to continue my education. I grew up in West Africa and moved back to the UK when I was in high school, finished my high school in London, undergrad in sports science in the south of England, a master's in sports psych in Wales, also did it's called a PGCE. It's the equivalent of a master's in teaching, also in Wales. Worked in England for a little while, married an American. The incentive to move to the US was the chance of more opportunities, also be near her family as well. And by doing that, I went back to school and went to Midwestern State University in Texas, did a master's in kinesiology there before finally getting my doctorate in pedagogy, physical education at the University of Arkansas.
Man, that's a lot of school, Tim.
Yeah, a little too much, some might say, including me. The the reality is, I look back on that and go, it was too much school. I shouldn't have spent so many years in school. The truth of it, I'm glad I did,
Yeah.
because I spent a long time learning from a lot of different people across a lot of different subjects. And when we talk about coaching, coaching is one of those terms that houses many different fields or disciplines. You can't be a great coach if you only know X's and O's. You have to know
Sure.
nutrition. You have to know strength and conditioning. You have to know management. You have to know sports psych. You have to know motor learning. You have to know all of these things if you're going to be a very competent coach, at least something about those things. And part of my education, I didn't know it at the time, was leading me toward coaching. And when I went through the programs, coaching didn't exist as a profession that you could study for. Now it does. And I'm thankful that I have a little bit of knowledge across a lot of different areas in coaching so that I better understand the profession as a whole. So all that said, I became a professor at a variety of different schools, ended up here at Florida State for the last 6 years, and run a center called FSU Coach, where we operate an online master's program in coaching for anybody around the world. And I also do a lot of professional development for coaches, sports organizations. I'm about to hit the road tomorrow to go to Phoenix to talk to a collegiate coaches association. Those are the kind of things I get to do now.
Well, I love that. First of all, you got a plethora of different experiences from being international student, and then coming, like you said, into here and being in this American market of coaching. Let me ask you, how do you see that the American market is different in coaching from maybe like an international market of coaches?
It really depends on the level you're talking about. The
Mm-hmm.
the high school model in the US is a lot more competitive and structured than what
Mm-hmm.
you would see potentially in other countries. If you're a talented athlete in other countries, you would probably be playing for the club, the professional club at the junior level, the youth level. If
Got you.
if Jacksonville Jaguars existed in England, they would
Mm-hmm.
have an under 10, under 12, under 14, under 16, under 18 program, and you would be part of that program, not playing for your school. In the US,
Got
that's a very different model. Conversely, when you get to college in a lot of other countries, collegiate sports is more like club sport.
right.
You may not have a coach. If you do, they're probably unpaid. You raise funds for yourself to travel around and play other clubs. It's very much more competitive for sure, but recreational focused
Mm-hmm.
than what collegiate sports is in the United States. From a coaching perspective, the standards of coaching requirements are typically quite different. There are a number of organizations in the US for specific sports that do a very good job of training coaches, but
Mm-hmm.
many, I would say the vast majority of coaches in the US are volunteer or unpaid and or undertrained or not trained at all. And I would say that goes up even into the collegiate level, where college coaches are hired based on their work experience
Mm-hmm.
and their networking ability, not because they have acquired a set of standards that determine they have the knowledge to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer does a really good job in the US of having licenses, for example, where
Mm-hmm.
a coach will go through a series of licenses, and if they don't have X, Y, and Z license, they are not permitted to coach at a specific level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But most sports don't do anything like that. And one could argue at the lower level, soccer is coached by volunteers, and I did the same thing with when my oldest was under 6. Dad
Mm-hmm.
was coach, and Dad
Mm-hmm.
had no standards required of him to go and coach those kids. It was just you're a parent, go for it.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
that's the vast majority of the population in the U.S. who are coaches. I would describe them as undertrained. Now, are there a number of volunteers in other countries who are undertrained? Absolutely, yes. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
the systems in place for coaches in other places are better, and it may be because they have the club system where
Mm-hmm.
those under 10s, under 12s, under 14s are all being taught by somebody who has their license to be allowed to coach at that level.
No, I think that's so great, Tim, and thank you for sharing that. I want to pivot a little bit and continue to talk about coaches, but I want to dive into this conversation about what it means to be kind of rooted in Christ as a coach. I think you see more coaches now outspoken kind of about their faith. I think of people like Dabo Sweeney, who's very outspoken kind of about his faith and leads with his faith. How do you see kind of the landscape of coaching shifting with faith like embedded as people start talking about their faith more? How do you see it shifting coaches even in performance or with their teams and with institutions? What kind of complexities does that bring?
Yeah. My first thought was, what evidence do you have to show that it is shifting so that they are talking about it more?
Well,
And
oh, okay, got you. Go ahead.
I would argue, unless there's evidence. I mean, you can, which for sure we can give some examples. One might argue that we just see it more because of social media and the
Hmm.
opportunity to say it more in front of more people. I don't know that it's necessarily coaches talking more about it. I think maybe it's just we see it more because we have access
Hmm.
to it more. And if this was 40 years ago, I don't know that I would know anything about Dabo Sweeney except what I read in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just the fact that we have social media allows us to hear more messages in
Mm-hmm.
that sense. I think I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer your question, but we all coach from a position.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we claim we have a position or not, we do. And by claiming we don't, we do, because that is your
Mm-hmm.
position. Our philosophy of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
not our X's and O's, but what we want to achieve as a coach has to be grounded in something. And
Right.
that something is going to be different for everybody. A lot of it is developed through our childhood, through social learning, what we've learned from others, what our coaches
Mm-hmm.
did, how they operated, were they nice to us, etc. And for others, it's going to be based on what they believe, what they've been
Mm-hmm.
taught to believe. And so this is where religion can have a role within
Mm-hmm.
coaching, in the sense that our faith can serve as a grounding point
Mm-hmm.
for making the decisions that we do as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a philosophy of coaching, whether it's grounded in faith or not, that is essentially our guidebook for how we respond to coaching situations, adverse
Mm-hmm.
or not. And faith is one of those ways in which we can use a guide to inform how we do our job.
I love that. I love that. And just in what you were just sharing, what popped up for me right away is those roots, right? Those foundational roots that determine your philosophy. You said can be a guide point and how they do their jobs. Let me ask you, because I know you dabbled and did some coaching yourself. For you, was your faith one of those guiding principles for you in how you coached and when you were coaching and leading athletes?
Yeah, I still coach, by the way, just to clarify. I'm still doing it.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. Because when I go into a situation where I'm working with an athlete, a client, whoever it is, my core values that
Mm-hmm.
are guided by what I believe
Mm-hmm.
determine the purpose of what I'm doing. Am I doing it to make money? Sure,
Mm-hmm.
we can coach to make money. A lot of coaches do that. But how do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Is the answer. My purpose may be my vocation. I'm doing this
Mm-hmm.
because I need to feed my family, or etc. But I know a lot of coaches don't do that with that
Right.
purpose, because I know many coaches who lose money as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if you don't have that why, then
Mm.
why are you doing it? You shouldn't be.
Right.
Unless the purpose is not something positive, but maybe selfish. Fame,
Mm-hmm.
recognition, um, feelings of winning. Who doesn't
Yeah.
like the feeling of winning? So there's a variety of reasons why we might coach for reasons that aren't necessarily a bad thing, unless they are the only thing.
Mm. I like that.
And when I coach, my goal is to get whoever I'm working with to improve their skills. But my goal is also to improve the relationship I have with them
Mm-hmm.
and improve who they are as a person. And if I don't go in with values, or dare I say, that guidebook that
Mm-hmm.
challenges me to be better, how can I make them better?
I love that. I love that. Um, when you say challenging you to be better, I want to ask you a question. So, when it comes to you and you making those improvements for yourself and that being your foundational, are you training talent more, or are you training the character in you more?
Me or my athlete?
You as a coach.
I, I think it's difficult to segregate the two.
Mm-hmm.
I think the environments that you're placed in train your faith. Our initial goal, if I'm working with an athlete, my first thought is not I'm going to impose my faith on them or I'm going to show them my faith.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't think like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not how I operate. But I operate within a framework of this is my faith, what I believe. And if I think my faith is something somebody else should also believe, then
Mm-hmm.
I need to demonstrate that rather than impose it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do I do that? I do that by being professional and good at my job, first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
to show that I care about them. And so I'm going to spend my time with them. And I've been told, I got told once when I was in teacher training that teachers are the best actors because regardless the day or situation you're having, you can't let your students know.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think the same is true with coaching. I may have had some really bad news an hour before, or a difficult conversation with one of my kids or my spouse, and I
Mm-hmm.
may be in not such a great mood, or I may be really tired from
Mm-hmm.
X, Y, and Z that happened recently. But when I walk into that facility, my job is to allow that athlete to get the best out of me while I'm working with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if I'm doing that in a way that is kind, that is respects them, that shows good character, all of the values that we would want to aspire to, then my hope is that that person will go, Tim's a great coach. He cares about me. I wonder why, when so and so I had treated me like garbage and it was a transactional situation where I did this or I got punished, or I did
Mm-hmm.
this because he wanted me to win and he didn't really care about my
Mm-hmm.
long-term career. And I had a conversation this morning with somebody about this very topic. And the question was, if the athletes are not asking you to go to their weddings, were you a
Mm.
good coach?
Wow, that's good. That's deep.
I mean,
That's deep.
really, do you not want the people that you work with to one day come back to you and say, I appreciate you. I value what you did for me. I value what you gave me. And I look up to you.
Yeah.
That's coaching. And so the X's and O's, while the X's and O's is almost a means to
Doing
achieve
it.
that relationship where you
Yeah.
improve them as a human being. And
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of coaches, the X's and O's are a means to winning, or a means to personal achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I don't blame the coach really in this, I blame us as society because we played so much emphasis on winning. And you talked earlier about the hirings and firings that are going on right now.
Right.
It's all about winning and it's all about dollars.
Right.
And I understand that. And as an
Mm-hmm.
athletic director, I think I would have to have some hard conversations with great people who are coaches who may not be successful in their sport.
Right.
But it shouldn't be the exclusive outcome. And I unfortunately see coaches who are successful and yet in many ways abusive.
Right. Right. Right.
And if you see them do it, on a camera, what are they doing off
Doing it in
camera?
private. Right. Right. Well, and that's where this faith conversation comes in for me, right? Because when you are grounded in your faith, then that faith typically, not in all cases, grounds you and gives you a set of standards
Mhm.
that I'm not just here because I'm a professional
Mhm.
doing a job or doing a vocation. I'm actually, my heart is attached to how I speak, the respect that I give is attached to even the love for the craft, right? I do it as unto the Lord. And so if I'm doing it as unto the Lord and I have a faith that's rooted, like you said, in something that is grounded and that is determining how I'm guiding you, then does it change the narrative? And that's why I say, it seems to me, like you said, even when I say we see it, you said we see it more because of social media. I personally feel like because we see it more, that gives more opportunities for coaches who were not us allowing their faith to be their guiding ledger, right? Because some people, like you said, the wins and losses are guiding. That's what's guiding, or the getting fired is guiding me. So it made me get out of character because I don't have my faith out here leading, right? My faith ain't leading me, but that paycheck is leading me, right? And so that's why I say I wonder if seeing this, being able to see it more, has social media given us and advertisement of things given us more opportunities for more coaches to grow and be more outspoken, if you would, about their roots being in faith. Do you see that?
I can see it. I can see it. I think there's a reticence by coaches, and I'll include
Mm-hmm.
myself as well, that we're always having to be careful about what we say and do on
Mm-hmm.
social media, in print,
Mm-hmm.
because it can come back to punish us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to clarify within all this discussion that none of us are perfect, that we make
Absolutely.
mistakes on a daily basis where we fail our athletes all the time.
Absolutely.
But we can still influence our athletes in small ways. Hold on one second. My computer just went to sleep. There we go.
Yeah.
Where we can, in small ways, where we make a difference with maybe them not even knowing it. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. One of the things that I don't do, very rarely, is swear.
Mm-hmm.
If I swear, it's usually an accident. Very,
Right.
very
Right.
irregular. I'm actually writing an article on coach use of swearing, and writing swear words in the article was very awkward for me because I don't do it. Now, I don't tell my athletes that I work with or clients that I work with I don't swear. But my hope
Right.
is that that at some point they notice, especially if they swear a lot, or
Mm-hmm.
if I comment on their profanity. Now, I'm not currently in charge of a team, so I can't have team rules of no swearing, for example. But
Right.
when I'm working with a client, for example, in a sport, they may notice that I never swear.
Uh-huh.
And somebody's like, "Well, you can. Your faith allows you to." Absolutely, it does. Maybe not
Mm-hmm.
blaspheme, but swear. Absolutely, it
Right.
does. But I'm trying to set an example of what I think is inappropriate language that others
Mm-hmm.
may find offensive. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
choosing not to use it, even though there's times I really want to use it.
But
Especially
that's
when you did that thing wrong that I told you 17 times not to do. But but those are small things where we use what we're grounded in to try
mm,
to dictate how we do our job, how we coach. And they don't have to be magnanimous gestures
yeah.
of significant proportions to show somebody that you believe things and you're trying to hold true to them. I'm also going to add one more thing, and this is a pet peeve of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it matters the religion on this one. I find it very disingenuous
Mm-hmm.
when those being interviewed start by thanking God.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels like it's a required saying that they have practiced at the beginning of their interview, at the beginning, you won the game. Well, first, I'd like to thank God that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the losing team is also not praying for safety, success, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those things that I find. I find it again. It doesn't matter the faith. Somebody comes on the field and crosses themselves, or points to the sky when they score a goal, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that is how our faith should be acted out. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think because I was successful on the field of play, I have been blessed by God more because of something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more again, how are you showing this and
Mm-hmm.
acting out your faith as opposed to saying things that are almost expected of you? I,
Mm-hmm.
I see this, for example, I think it was Last Chance U, one of the Last Chance U teams, where they said the Lord's Prayer before a game. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just they said it as fast as they could
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't really thinking about what they were saying. They were just doing it because it's part of our ritual
Right. Right.
rather than us acting out what we believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a one of the things I struggle with when I hear those things is immediately I become suspicious of what your true faith is because you're not really clarifying what you're thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's more, no, I'm thankful we were successful.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think for those of us who do profess some kind of faith, I think
Yeah.
there's a challenge there to be a little bit more thoughtful about if you're going to do something like that, make it less about the wind.
Right. Right. I love that you say that. I always say to people now, I think in that instance, like it's easy to kind of go with kind of what the cultural expressions are, and
Mhm,
I'm doing this culturally because this is what's culturally
mhm,
relevant versus it being genuine, right? And versus it being no, this is how I lead my life, like, and I'm not shifting that part of me because I'm on a camera,
mhm,
right? This is how I talk in private, and I'm not going to shift talking that way because I do believe that some athletes, like you said, the, some people, that's them. Hey, I want the world to like me. I want you to go
mhm,
hit the like button on my page, right? And
mhm,
follow me. But I believe there are some who this is their faith. Like you catch those, some of those athletes. I've seen videos of international track stars and American track stars who are singing worship songs,
mhm,
and they catch them like singing a worship song, and then they promote that,
mhm,
and they now sit down at the press table, and they're still singing their worship song.
mhm,
And of course, it's going to get press, right? But looking at it, you could think based on the clips that they send out, oh, that this person just did this because they said in a press conference. So I think also, like, I appreciate the scripture because the scripture tells us to think on these things, right? Whatsoever is lovely and whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is of a good report. Think on those things. And so for me, I try to, when I see that, that there are people who do it for the likes and stuff, but I always look at it and I always say to myself, Tim, God, if they're doing it for any other reason, I sure do pray that you impact their life. I
yeah,
sure do pray that this is an impactful moment. But I agree with you that if you're doing it just for uh fanfare and it's disingenuous, if you're in that on that knee, even in that locker room, and you're just going through the ritual of it, and there's no meaning. I asked one of my NFL clients this. I asked him. I said to him, I said, "Let me ask you, when you go out there in that huddle, you guys huddle up every play. Do you think the same thing? Do you ever invite God into the huddle with you?" And he said, Hmm. He said, he said, that's a good thought. And I said, because we say all the time we want him to lead us. We say all the time we want him to be with us. Are there spaces during your game or while you're being an athlete that you don't invite him to be a part of that? And he said to me, thank you. He said, because I don't think you can recognize it, but you go out and you pretty much are doing what you're trained to do. And he said, and I do want God to be in every part and every facet of what I'm doing, not just because that's who I am at home, not just because that's who I am when I'm talking to the guys in the locker room. He said, I want him in the huddle with me. He said, matter of fact, I want him, I want him there when I'm making a tackle or when I'm catching a pass. And he said, you gave me a different perspective about my relationship with him.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this, Tim. Do you believe that as a coach, sometimes you can get mistaken by pressure and put pressure over purpose?
Say that one more time.
So, as a coach, do you believe that coaches get driven by pressure versus being, as you said earlier, driven by their why, their purpose?
Yes.
And when you see that happen, what do you think for you, in teaching about the philosophies of coaching, what's happening in a coach then in those moments where the pressure now is making me come off of my principles that I believe in? What would you say to a coach that's kind of experiencing that?
I would like to find out why.
Mm,
And I know that's a simple response. But in my experience, we tend to lose our purpose when we find ourselves in situations that are not desirable.
yeah.
Okay. Whether that be there's a fear of failure, whether that
Mm-hmm.
be we have to take on more work than we originally anticipated, whether that be we have financial issues or
Mm-hmm.
issues that are affecting our family. There are many things that will come in and help to dictate why we're doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge of this is understanding that through all of that, you still have a why. I will tell you, Tarico, 10 minutes before we got on this podcast, I had a conversation with somebody
Mm-hmm.
who was struggling. Just
Mm-hmm.
end of the year, I'm exhausted. I need a break. This has been a lot for me this year. I only
Mm-hmm.
have X number of years to retirement. I'm just trying to get to retirement.
Mm,
And my response to her was, don't forget your why.
right.
Because if you take away your why, the job, the role, the position, the responsibility is overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like what I'm doing.
Mm,
The pressure's too much because your why has gone. And one of the things that I encourage coaches to do, and we talk about this in our classes, of course, as well, is develop your philosophy and values.
mm-hmm.
Most coaches, and I've done data collection on this over the years, and I will tell you that most coaches, I'm not going to guess a number, I would have to go back and look, but most do not or cannot articulate their values.
Right.
Almost all cannot have their athletes dictate their coach's values.
Mm.
In other words, if you haven't really articulated your values and your athletes definitely don't know what your values are, then what's your why?
What's your why? Mm.
If your athletes know your values and you know your values, you can use those as a
Build.
guide to
Mm-hmm.
your coaching principles. And so, for example, if one of your values is organization,
Mm-hmm.
and that is clearly articulated, and your athlete is not organized, we can talk about values and how in
Right.
our team, organization is really important. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
my values. It's one of our team values. And therefore, there are standards I need you to meet in order for this to the flip side. And I'm going to clarify, you also need to praise people who meet those values. It
Right.
cannot be a punitive, these are rules that you must live by. These are
Mm-hmm.
values that we live by that we recognize when are done well and when need to be addressed. And
That's beautiful.
most coaches really can't articulate, these are my 4 values, or these are the 5 things that we really feel
Mm-hmm.
important. Some can. One of the things that really struck out to me was Elko for Texas A&M
Mm-hmm.
wearing a shirt, right? Grind
Mm-hmm.
was the first thing
Mm-hmm.
I did. Googled, what does it mean? And I can't name them off the top of my head, but I looked at those 5 values and went, yeah, that he has values. His team know them. They're
Right.
working towards something together. And those values can, are typically grounded in positive things, often
Mm-hmm.
faith-based as well, in the sense that organization or care of others or
Right.
whatever it may be are also very much faith-based um, ideals or
Mm-hmm.
traits, I should say. Last thing I'm going to mention on this, which is often forgotten and which I like from Elko. If you have values, they have to be visible.
Yeah.
Me just having a beginning of year session with athletes going, here are my values.
Right.
Okay, we've done. Let's get on with practice, and I'll tell you what our values are next year. No,
That's press
that
conference.
that doesn't work.
Right.
You're wasting your time. But when you're putting those values in places where people can see them,
Right.
you are doing something good. Now, Mike Norvell has had a really rough couple of years. I think he'd
Mm-hmm.
be the first to admit that. But he had a really rough couple of years in the win-loss column. That
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean he had a terrible 2 years in developing people. And one of the things that really impressed me when he came into FSU was he presented his values and
Right. Mm-hmm.
he talked about them. And he mentioned them in the boosters, and they were on T-shirts, and they were in magazines, and they were in the locker room. It is something that really impressed me when he came in. What's interesting is, and I've never really thought about this till now, I haven't really heard him talk about those values in the last few years.
Mm.
Jordan Travis talked about them a lot.
Yeah.
He posted about them a lot. And it just occurred to me that I haven't really seen much of it was Climb, CLIMB.
I just saw Jordan Travis. He just did a interview, and he
Mhm.
literally just talked about those values again.
And that's where I go,
Yeah.
that's great coaching, because Jordan
Right.
Travis has left that program and those values still resonate with him. And I'm pretty sure Norvell's going to be at Jordan Travis's wedding.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and for me, I think that is the testament of great coaching. Are you going to have seasons where your team
Mm-hmm.
performs poorly in a win-loss column? Yes, you will.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Let's think about it. 50% of teams are not in the positive win column.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that those 50% in the bottom column had terrible coaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are still great coaches. I encourage you to watch, it was on Netflix, SEC, was it called SEC? I would have to look. It's a program about SEC coaches. And it
Okay.
came out a couple months ago, and my wife and I watched it, and it featured the Mississippi State coach, the Vanderbilt coach, South Carolina coach, a few other coaches in the SEC, some of them more than others. But it was fascinating to watch them coach and listen to them coaching. And it was interesting. My wife and I discussed which coaches would we want to play for based on what we saw.
Who you want to
And,
play for? You
and
know I
it,
got to ask.
it is interesting, Tarico. It is interesting. I'm not going to tell you everything, but the coaches, the coaches that I would want to play for have had better seasons this year than they had last year in a win-loss column. And part of that is because if I played for that coach, I would want to play for them.
And that's the difference. That is the difference. I love that you say that, because that, what you just described to me, is what rooted in greatness is all about. Like, when the roots run deep, the tree can grow as high as it needs to, right? But if the roots come out of the ground, the tree dies. Is basically what I hear you saying, right? And so when you look at, like you said, the body of work, and this is something, you and I have talked about this, that I really believe we can kind of sharpen the saw, if you would, when it comes to coaching, is providing these outlets for them to do that rooted work. I think you and I talked about that there's a lot of conversation on mental performance when it comes to student athletes, but let's be honest, like, who doesn't need mental performance work? Like, that is not just a athletic feat. That is in the professional world. That is doctors, lawyers, parents. It doesn't matter. Nobody, mental performance is not off limits for anybody, because we all have that mindset that needs to be regulated, if you would. Let me ask this, and I know we're getting ready to wrap this thing up. I really do appreciate you. I can't get out of here without shining a light on this amazing book that I've picked up a few times myself. Reflections on the coaching life, which is, if you guys hadn't already got this, man, I want to encourage you to go out and get it. Tim don't even know this, but I use this sometimes, y'all, before I'm having meetings and stuff. I keep this thing close to me and I flip it over. And when I tell you guys, I'm not going to tell you all what's in it, because you got to get one. So make sure that you go out. Tim, first of all, before I get to my question, where can they find a copy of this book, man? Where can they find this book at?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. I think it's $14.99. I wrote the book for coaches. The reason I wrote it the way it is coaches don't have much time. We're
Right.
busy. We're busy. And so when somebody hands you a 300-page book and says, "Oh, this is great, you should read it," I don't have time for that.
Right.
So I developed this. It's almost like a devotional in one sense. Not in a religious sense, but in the chicken soup for the soul kind of idea, where there's 90 different things, topics
Hmm.
in the book, and each one is a page, 2 pages, and it's really not about me. I've
Right.
interviewed a lot of people in this profession, and I've read a number of books. And so what I did, look, rather than listening to this person rabbit on for 60 minutes, let me take one thing they said in that 60 minutes, put it in the book, spend a
Hmm.
couple paragraphs digesting that, ask some questions of yourself, and move on to the next one. Because really, coaches can and should read. And I say that almost incredulously, having been told by more than one coach, "I won't read your book because I don't read."
Hmm.
Okay. And one of collegiate collegiate head coach. And
Right.
this is not the only person. And my response was, can you read 2 pages?
Right.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, 2 pages a day. 93 months down the road, you've become a better coach because something in this book will click, because it's the people in this book are smart, are
Yeah.
well experienced, are
Hmm.
articulate, and say things that sometimes rock my world. And
Yeah.
so let me put them all together so that it can make a difference for you. And
Well,
this isn't really me trying to sell the book.
right.
I gave a book to somebody today and told them, I said, this is the best book I've written, not because it's got the the most content in it, but it's because it's
Right.
been written by people from everywhere on everything. And I think
Mhm.
it will make a difference for everybody in some way.
Tim, I mean, I'm serious when I tell you, like, so sometimes when I'm getting ready to meet with my clients, like, let me just give an example, swimming client. You have a swimming coach that you interviewed in here. So I went in the book and I was like, let me see what this coach is talking about in reference to coaching and swimming. And it, for me and my mental performance work that I'm doing, I want it to be very targeted stuff that speaks to the language that they understand. And so you gave, like you said, me a quick little, here's a quick dump in you so you can get your train of thought going in a direction. And it also allows me to create pathways from what you've put here. So I just want to encourage, if you're a coach and you're watching this, do yourself a favor, because you're not doing Tim a favor, you're not doing me a favor, but do yourself a favor as a coach and give yourself kind of that creative flow that can help you. Maybe you can't read a whole 300-page book, but you can read 2 pages, like Tim said. I use it, and Tim, I just wanted to make sure we talked about that. Tim, I want to wrap up with this question. I always ask, and I wrap up all my interviews with this one question. What is the last thing that broke your heart and you needed God's help with it? Heavy question to end it.
Yeah, thanks for the warning on this one. Appreciate that. I, I don't know how much I can tell you,
Yeah,
because these things are recorded. And if it was you and me having a conversation, I might be a little bit more open about this.
absolutely.
But I will tell you that when we put our faith and trust in someone else,
Mm,
we will, not always, but we may experience regret.
got it.
And we make plans. We like making plans. We like setting goals. We like
Yeah.
having targets. We're competitive by nature.
Mm-hmm.
We seek to be successful. And
Mm-hmm.
so we do things with the hope that they lead to better things. And I don't think that's the wrong thing. But when we do it with even though we may claim that we are trusting in a higher power,
Yeah.
we
Mm-hmm.
may at heart be trusting in someone else to do something for us, to get us what we want. And
Absolutely.
I went through, a few years ago, uh, I went through a situation where I had been promised, or I had been led to believe that
Mm-hmm.
that uh, that I would get promoted.
Yeah.
And this didn't happen once, but twice. Two different situations. Both times, something happened to deny me that promotion. And I would
Mm-hmm.
argue unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
I quote unquote deserved it, just like the commercials tell me when I should buy something. I deserved the promotion. I had earned it. I deserved the raise. I deserved the recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And both times something happened where somebody in a position of power above me did not give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I had been driven for success for the sake of me being successful.
Wow.
Look what I
Wow.
accomplished. Yeah, I got
Right.
that promotion. Yeah, I
Yeah.
earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that was a good gut check for me, because I hadn't been content. I wanted more.
Mm.
And again, I'm not saying that ambition is wrong. We can have a
Right.
completely different discussion about that. But ambition for the wrong reasons is wrong. And while I claimed that my reasons were right, deep down they were wrong.
Mm.
And
I love
at the
that.
time, Tarico, that really hurt. I felt
Mm.
I had been treated unjustly. I had been
Yeah.
treated out of what was owed me. I really, really struggled with that. And to some extent, I still struggle with that
Right.
because it was unfair. But looking back on it now, I realized that my ambition was very selfish,
Yeah.
and I did not approach that with the right intent. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I realized that I needed to reevaluate what I was doing and why. In part, I'm here now because of those decisions. Because had I received those promotions, I probably wouldn't be here.
Right.
I may not even be working with coaches. I
Right.
would be doing something else. So that was one that was pretty deep. And I think we all have other ones sometimes on a daily
Absolutely.
basis. But that one was a career change for me because it
Mm-hmm.
changed my perspective and how I looked at success.
Tim, you like this that you just shared was a conversation that I just had last night personally for myself about how the maturity now for me is being able to look at certain scenarios and situations. And over in Matthew 22:37, where it says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, that when I was going through certain situations, I said that I did. I profess that I did, but I was actually very egotistical and prideful, and led with that, and talked about what, like you said, what I deserved or I didn't deserve to be treated that way, right? And I think when I humbled myself, I was like, man, whoa, dude, like bring it down a notch. Like really, the greatest thing that you could have done was serve. And I was like, ooh. So I appreciate you for sharing that, because I think that it can help. Some coaches gonna see this, and I think it can help people, us as people, to see, do we really serve what we proclaim we believe, right? Because it's so easy to say I believe, but not so easy all the time to serve it. And so I appreciate you for that vulnerability.
I've been chewing on the verse 1 Timothy 6:6. I'll be honest, I had to look up the verse. You're better than me because
Yeah.
you know
No,
you're
I got my Bible right here too,
it,
Tim.
but I did know the verse with godliness and contentment is great gain.
Yeah.
And I've been chewing over that over the last year or so, on learning to be content in the
Hmm.
situation you're in, when we're in an environment, particularly in sports, with more, what's next, keep climbing, keep going,
Yeah.
get to the next level.
Yeah.
A phrase I can't stand, by the way. But I we have students. I'm interested in your master's program because I'm here and I want to get here.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with ambition, but are you content? Are you content with what you're doing right now? And that may come
Mm.
down the road, but it shouldn't be,
Right.
I can't be content here because I got to be here and then I'll be content.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something I've had to learn over the last few years. And some of it has come through that disappointment of being turned down for promotions, where I had to learn to be content with not being in that
Right.
position. And you know what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting, Tarico, is since that time, I have had opportunities to take that promotion.
Wow.
And I've said
Wow.
no. And I've said no. And I haven't said no because I don't want a promotion, or maybe I don't want a
Mhm.
pay raise, or maybe I want to move to X, Y, and Z location because it's better. I said no because I love my job
Mhm.
and my family come first. And my family are content. And so I'm not gonna, even though this would be great for
That old
Tim,
ego.
the ego comes into play, like, oh, I'm,
Yeah.
this now, and I'm successful
Yeah.
now. The reality is that godliness and contentment is great.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. I mean, godliness, of course, you see that and go, well,
Right.
duh, right? Be like
But
God, yeah.
contentment.
But why
Yeah.
contentment? Why, of all of the characteristics that we can have, it's contentment. And so I've been learning to accept where I am,
Yeah.
bloom where I'm planted,
Yes.
and allow things to happen in a way that is, I don't know what the right word, but not of my design,
Right. That's
not of
his
my
design.
design. I'm not
Right.
going to formulate my path for success.
Right.
Not saying
Right.
goals are bad, not saying goals are bad, but I'm not
Right.
going to, here's my 3 steps to getting to here.
Right.
And then when I get there, I'll be, things will be great.
Yeah.
Well, if you have that attitude, when you get there, you're going to be trying to get 3 steps to get up to where. And then one
Exactly.
day you're going to realize that maybe you burned a lot of people. Maybe
Yeah.
you didn't spend time with your family like you should, that you're lonely, that your success is only of value on some paper in history.
Right. Right.
Uh, if I walk down the hall and I see the list of deans in this college,
Mhm.
what kind of legacy did they leave beyond a picture on a wall? I
Right.
don't want to be a picture on a wall that didn't leave a legacy of doing great things for people.
Right.
So that's been an area of definite personal growth over the last couple of years.
Well, I can tell you, Tim, that same sentiment has been for me as well, and continuing to like really dive into it. So I tell people when I'm talking about rooted in greatness, it was because I had to go and look at my roots. I really did have to go and why are you doing this? I just said to a friend the other day, like even these conversations, I told you I was going to do this before, but I waited because I didn't want it for the wrong reason.
Mhm.
Like I want it because I know this is a purpose. There's a why behind it for me. And I want that why to really come through in what I'm doing. Not the advertisement. That's not why I'm doing it. And so when you're doing that, like you said, and you're in that godliness and contentment about I don't know how this is going to impact. I really don't. And I'm not really concerned about that. I'm more so interested in transforming the lives of people and the people that need this the most. Because not everybody will say, I want to hear this conversation, but there'll be somebody. One of my meetings yesterday with an athlete was so transformative for me. Didn't prompt or ask, but when she came in, she said, I can exhale.
Mm.
She's like, I've finished being a track athlete. She's like, I'm done. And I finally can give God the front seat. And she started to cry. She was like, I can sit this down now. And she's like, and yeah, I wanted to go pro. She said, I still do. She said, but for this moment, I want to take it off and I want to sit it down. And I actually want to get with God and find out what he wants from me, because I've been ritualistically being a track athlete and doing what we do. And in that moment, man, I just started to cry. I started to cry and was like, I said to her, you're why I'm doing this. And I told her, thank you. I said, I don't know why you came in this meeting and just poured that out like that way. And she said, because I'm tired of playing the role. She's like, I'm tired. And she's like, do you know how many athletes feel the same way that I do? And I said, I promise in that moment I looked up to and I was like, thank you. Because I needed that confirmation that no, it's the why behind it. Right. So thank you so much for what you shared just now.
Let me just say one thing that I think helps. We're wrapping this up, talking about our why, etc. Too often, just like your athlete you described, I am so guilty of this too. We get so involved in our sport and what we're doing in our sport that we don't stop to appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah.
There should be, yeah, sports are ritualistic. There should be joy in that, to enjoy the
Right.
moment of I feel good while I'm competing.
Right.
I feel good while I'm coaching. To stop
Right.
and be able to say, I'm helping somebody here, and this is what I was born to do.
Created to do. Right.
I'm doing something for somebody else, and that gives me joy.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do that more, and me included.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking about it when you were talking about that. I've coached. I coach a lot of pickleball now, and
Yeah.
some is very recreational beginners just learning to play, and some are advanced players. And I was just thinking of all of the lessons that I've had where I haven't stopped and just paused and just thought, I'm doing what I love. And I get to be thankful for that, because I'm so busy with the next thing, the next
Yeah.
drill, the next whatever, that sometimes it's worth just pausing, and in whether you're a player or not. And I get to play this evening, and
Oh, nice.
I'm going to be deliberate in stopping at some point just to be thankful that while my body is broken in many areas, I can
Yeah.
still participate and still enjoy the experience of being an athlete. So I think we need to do that more as athletes and coaches.
Tim, man, this conversation, I already knew it was going to be a great conversation.
It was fun.
I want to tell you, man, thank you so much for agreeing to come on, and thank you for being a guest with us here at Exposure. We're going to share this out, man. And when you guys listen, when you hear this, Tim, how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's a variety of ways. If you Google Timothy Baghurst, there aren't many of us in the world. Pretty available. But you can find me on most social media. I try to post quite a bit of leadership coaching stuff on X, Twitter, Elon Musk, whatever you want to call it these days. Um, that's where you'll find me mostly. But
Okay.
my email is accessible everywhere. It's just my name, timothybaghurst@gmail.com. Would love to do what I do, which is helping coaches.
Well, Tim, I appreciate you so much. Guys, listen, get the book first of all. Make sure you go and get the book. I know I keep saying that, but I'm saying it because I believe it helps me, and I always want to put tools in people's hands that can help you. If you're a coach, get the book. Maybe you're an athlete and you want to be a coach one day, get the book. Maybe you're a parent of athletes that work with coaches, get the book, because it could benefit you at understanding kind of the mind of those coaches and what's going on. It may give you as a parent some talking points for you when you need to talk to some of these coaches, right? It gives you kind of idea and perspective. Tim, Dr. Tim Baghurst, thank you so much for being here with us, and we look forward to. I gotta have you back, Tim. You know, you gotta come back. But thank you, Dr. Tim.
Thank you.